Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Amanda Show. And today we'll be discussing a very important conversation for Africa and it's Africa's food and the infiltration of Africa's food. And I have none other to discuss this than I believe is very knowledgeable on this fact, and that is Dr. Shegun Adebayo. So Dr. Shegun, please introduce yourself to our audience and then we'll dive into this.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, depends on where you're viewing this from. My name is Dr. Shegun Adebayo, the Deputy Director of the Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Shago, I just wanted to ask quickly because if we're going to be discussing GMOs, we need to understand the basics. So, what exactly are GMOs?
All right, so GMOs are genetically modified organisms. These are organisms that have been modified at genome level, and basically, there are different types of genetically modified. In a broad sense, when you say something has been modified at genome level, that means it is no longer in its original state at genome level. New genetic material have been added to it, and you have um, transgenic, because that's what it's called, transgenic organisms, both plants and animals, that have taken on new traits that were foreign to them because new genetic material has been added to them. And in the case of what we know as genetically modified foods, you have genes taken from the Bacillus thuringiensis, it's a soil bacteria, and those genes have now been added to our food. And the major property that is particular to Bacillus thuringiensis that caught the interest of scientists is that Bacillus thuringiensis it has insecticidal properties, and that insecticidal property that makes it an insecticide to pests. The gene responsible for that has now been taken from Bacillus thuringiensis and implanted into our food. And that's why some people refer to genetically modified foods that have that particular protein, which was taken from Bacillus thuringiensis. Some people have referred to those kind of food as pesticides. And these are some of the concerns with, or ethical concerns with GMOs. Thank you.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So, because I've heard a number of people call GMOs pesticides, right? But what I want to understand now is what is the promise that they sell? Because if the risk of this being pesticides, what is the promise that they sell to us with GMOs, and have they been proven to deliver?
Well, the promise of bounty harvest is the major reason why GMOs are being sold, and they tell us that if the farmer's harvest is guaranteed due to the use of insectidal crops, that means it would end up contributing towards food security because you have much more food, and these are the promises that are being sold to farmers and also to agricultural stakeholders and investors, that there is a promise for bountiful harvest. But that's another conversation entirely. Have the promises been true? Have it been real? Yes and no. There is sufficient information to prove that after a while, the pests become resistant, to these GM crops. And eventually, you have to bounty harvest maybe once or twice. It's not, there's information to show that it's not self perpetuating. And again, At what cost do you want to have this
Mm,
bounty harvest? What are the
mhm,
risks involved? Because you can be getting a lot of something that is at the detriment of something else entirely that
mhm,
affects the value chain, the food value chain, you know. So these are the concerns with the promise of the GM crops. You get to find out that the seeds are not only patented, but
mhm,
they, after the first generation, you would have to go back to the seed merchants. When we were growing up and studying agriculture, when we were learning about our world, foundationally, seed was nobody's property. Seeds
yes.
came from the food we eat. You buy a mango, you eat it. There is seed in it that you can plant to get not just one mango, but you get a whole tree of mangoes. And this is God's design for food security. The fact that a single seed can lead to a massive harvest. That is God's design. Nobody plants one seed and reaps one seed. You plant a seed and you reap a lot. But what
Mm,
scientists are doing today is they are patenting this. This is what you this aligns with the current drive for control. Because if food becomes
mhm,
scientifically controlled and economically managed by some individuals, you can be erased such that you are unable to buy these things when you go to the market. So you're looking at control. So it favors the principles and global policies of control, which is looking like what you see today that is being born around the world, the totalitarian system of government, technocracy. And when food begins to
mm,
become technically managed like this, you are gradually setting yourself up for to be subservient to a group of individuals that will decide whether you can eat or
or
not.
not. Mm.
These are some of the concerns with this technology called genetically modified food. Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up this term control because ever since, for a while now, but particularly ever since 2020 and COVID, we are seeing a clampdown by very powerful people and leaders in government to try to control people. And this is why I'm bringing it into the context of Africa because Africa is still, compared to the rest of the world, we have a
Yeah.
lot of development to do. So if we give up our food sovereignty, who, how far can this thing go? Do you get what I'm trying to say? What is the like, if we upset someone or maybe a country and they sanction us the way say they sanctioned Russia, but then our food is dependent on them, that is going to lead to very, very scary circumstances. But anyway, I wanted to just since you're talking about control, I wanted to ask you quickly, who are some players in this GMO game?
Let's start with the African Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF. AATF is an initiative by the Rockefeller Foundation and now greatly supported by the Gates Foundation. And they are pseudo philanthropists,
Mhm,
people who want the world to believe that they are working for the good of humanity, but their action seems to suggest otherwise. And they began looking at how agriculture can become technologically driven, and they set up the AATF. AATF is the mothership for cultivating GMOs in Africa. And for the agenda of AATF to spread around the continent of Africa, they needed they needed to birth another organization called the Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnologists, OFAB. OFAB is like an association of scientists that are interested in biotechnology, and OFAB has chapters in different countries around the world, around Africa, especially Nigeria and Kenya, which seems to be their most active hubs. And the country director of OFAB Nigeria is a woman called Rose Gidado.
Okay.
And Rose Gidado came into Nigeria under the auspices of OFAB and sought federal government appointment, and gradually became a federal government staff, and is currently the deputy director of the National Agricultural Biotechnology Research and Development Agency. So she currently doubles as the deputy director of this agency and also the country director of OFAB. So she wears two hats. And she also heads a department called Agricultural Biotechnology Department in the National Agricultural Biotechnology Research and Development Agency, which is also under the Ministry of Science and Technology in Nigeria. And you're seeing a government staff who doubles as also an agent of an organization that is credited to advancing biotechnology, aka GMO science, across the continent of Africa. And if you look at OFAB's activities through the years, OFAB has played a major role in Nigeria in lobbying the government to accept GMOs and promote GMO science. And from inception, OFAB has been very involved in this until this moment, and OFAB staff is sitting as a policymaker in Nigeria. Yes.
Wow. So is there should be conflict of interest somewhere along the line of doing her job?
Absolutely. She needs to be invited. She needs to be invited by the agent, she needs to be invited by the government, by the security agencies, to explain how she is able to ensure that she doesn't encounter conflict of interest in the discharge of her duties on both sides. Another agency that I should introduce is the National Biosafety Management Agency, NBMA. Now, NBMA is an agency that is responsible for guaranteeing the safety of GMOs that are imported or cultivated in Nigeria. You can actually call NBMA the GMO police of Nigeria. Now, we have had instances where the same NBMA have been found to promote GMOs in the country. We are supposed to be playing a middle role, but then the just recently sacked the DG of NBMA, Dr. Yemisi Asbara, was on national TV proudly saying we need GMOs for food security in Nigeria, as against God's original design of one grain, or rather one seed, being planted and giving you a very large harvest. So you had the DG come up to say that, and she recently got sacked about 2 weeks ago, where the government also appointed a new individual, STEM lawyer, the barrister Bello Bala Buhari, to be the new Director General of the NBMA. Yeah, so that's where we're currently at.
Why she was sacked? Was it announced the reason why she was sacked?
Well, no, we don't know. We don't know yet, but I mean, it's not far-fetched, but we don't know. It's nothing was said officially and publicly. This is recent news, actually.
Okay. I also want to discuss quickly, because I know that you're working with time now. That's why I'm trying to get as much questions as possible. I also wanted to ask, recently, because when you're talking about GMOs, especially in Africa, one name keeps popping up, and that's Bill Gates. So recently, he said he was going to give majority of his wealth to Africa. That's about $200 billion over the next 20 years. And then
He
by the
doesn't
20,
have it.
okay, but my question is sometimes I wonder why is he so obsessed? Because last week also he was at a Bloomberg event and he was saying that well, Nigeria is very important when it comes to health and agriculture in Africa, and he's coming into Nigeria with all those philanthropic terms he used. But I don't know probably in your course of researching this, if you have seen why is he so obsessed with us? That's my question. What's the end game for him?
Well, Nigeria is the most populous black nation, and Nigeria is projected to become one of the world's most populous nations in the world in a very short while. And Nigeria is also a very influential nation in Africa and in global politics. Nigeria was an emerging global power in the South until the direct attack led by Henry Kissinger's report, which was declassified recently, showing that in 1974, a report was made that if Nigeria was not stifled, they were going to become a global power in the South and would concentrate the powers, or rather resources, of the global South on the continent, which would not be good for geopolitical business in the West. And we were countered with, yeah, so we now see all these projections about Nigeria, great athletes, great musicians, great entrepreneurs, some of the greatest minds in medical care anywhere in the world, great academicians. This is a country of highly motivated individuals. So it is it's very, it's not far-fetched where um, people like Bill Gates, who are known to be transnational vandals, would want to come in, creeping amongst us and vandalize, our resources, our people, under the guise of humanitarianism. And he's not just obsessed with Nigeria, he's obsessed with Africa. Not just Africa, the whole world, actually, bringing the whole world under technocracy. That's a system of government run by technology. And he is a servant of technology. He's a servant of that agenda. And he believes in technocracy. And actually, it's the main form of technocracy is going to be biotechnocracy, where human beings and all resources will be controlled biologically through technology, and that's biotech actually. And he's been an investor in biotech for many years. He's been advancing biotech, and if you want to do such a thing, if you can crack Nigeria, you crack Africa, and then you can move on from there. So the 200 billion he promised, the 200 billion he promised to Nigeria was superficial, because he doesn't have that resource. He's depending on his friends at the Giving Club to fund all of that stuff he's currently working on. And he didn't even say he's giving us at once. He's spreading it over the next 40 years. Also, I think it's 40 years or 20 years, but over a period of time. So when you see the reports, they're not going to add that it's not immediate. You just think that it's 200 billion it's like you're clickbaiting, actually. You say, oh, I would give you, like I tell you now, I will give you $1 billion tomorrow. Come tomorrow. And you come tomorrow and I tell you, oh yes, I said I was going to give you $1 billion tomorrow. So tomorrow, come tomorrow. Then you come tomorrow, I say, but tomorrow, it's tomorrow. Then you come tomorrow and then you say, I said tomorrow. And tomorrow will never come. So I can just keep clickbaiting you that I will give you tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. So if I say I'm going to give you something, I will give you in the next 40 years or 20 years. Who said you're going to live? Who said you're going to live till then? So, I mean, anyone who falls for that falls for cheap tricks.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that it's not really his money he's looking to give. He's looking at his friend because when we had the like Africa Japan conference in Tokyo, he actually, should I say, he bent the hands of the Japanese government to get certain billions from the government to sponsor health and agricultural innovations in Africa. It wasn't his own money; he took it from Japan. But anyway, I just wanted to ask, what have, because I know that this is not the first time we're having GMO conversation, right? So what has other countries, what have other countries done about GMOs in their country that we
Yeah, we
can
have a
learn?
lot of countries that
Yeah.
we have a lot of countries. I'm actually looking for a document. We have a lot of countries that have rejected GMOs through the years, and a lot of them have said they don't want it. You have countries like Angola, you have countries like Tanzania, Ecuador, many countries actually, Mexico, they are
Mm,
all going against GMOs, including many European countries. They don't cultivate GMOs in those countries. And the major reasons for those is, first of all, for the loss of their natural seed, their natural crops. Because when the GMO crops begin to cross pollinate with your natural variants, they wipe out your natural variants. So they don't want to lose their natural varieties. And they decided to ban it, which is it's very logical actually when you think
mm,
about it. you know. So a lot of them don't want to, of course, they fear the risks, the environmental risks, the fact that it also increases the use of pesticides long term. And
mm,
pesticides, a lot of pesticides are known to be carcinogenic. They are also known to cause a lot of other, um, like things like organ failures and stuff. These are very dangerous to the human body. And the use of GMOs, because GMOs most times are resistant to these particular chemicals. So the farmers can apply as much as possible when you know that this crop is, this crop is actually pest resistant, or sorry, herbicide resistant, and you pour in large quantity these agrochemicals into the farm,
mm,
knowing that it's not going to kill your crop. But at the
mm,
same time, what you're forgetting is that the crops actually uptake these things, and then you see the fresh vegetable, but you have glyphosate in it, and then you're
mm,
going to cut it, you want to eat it, rather you eat it, and then a few years down the line, you're having organ failure, your organs are messing up, it's from the food. So
yeah.
yes, GMOs lead to that. And of course, when any sane country realizes the risks with GMOs, they make all moves to ban it and get it out of their systems. And there are many countries around the world that's currently doing that. Some that approved it are rescinding their approval already.
Wow. Because I watched a documentary by the Guardian UK. And in that documentary, they were talking about Zambia. I wanted to play it for you, but because we are working with time, I want to be respectful of your time. But in that documentary, they showed that the farms where these seeds have been planted, the natural seeds don't grow anymore. And now the farms are completely destroyed because you need to go back to the seed manufacturer to get seeds. And once you can't get seeds, you can't now plant your natural seeds. So now that you said this is why a lot of countries are banning it, it's making a lot of sense to me. So I'm quickly in the next like 5 minutes, I want us to round up so I don't take much of your time.
From
I heard you talk about hacking crop DNA once. I think it was a clip I saw somewhere on Twitter.
about what?
Hacking crop DNA to make it susceptible to issues,
Okay,
right?
yes, yes.
And you gave an example of the ginger issue in Nigeria. Please just say that, rephrase that, talk about that so that my audience
All
will know.
right. I think you're referring to where I talked about the US China Trade Commission came up
Yes,
with
yeah.
a document that they found out that it was possible for China to wage um, biotechnological terrorist attack on American agricultural systems. And they said that China was already acquiring um, seeds, GMO seeds actually, from genetically modified genetically modified crops from America with the purpose of, you know, learning how to make them susceptible to fungal attacks. And they've said in America that this was actually a great cause of concern. It was worrisome because you could actually weaken crops and then make them susceptible to blight or any other, fungal disease that can affect your yield and wipe out your crops and lead to drought. And then a few years down the line, you're looking at a very similar thing happening in Nigeria, where suddenly the ginger farmers the ginger farmers in Nigeria began to complain of black spots appearing on their ginger crops, and of course, they were infected with fungal diseases, and nobody wanted to buy Nigeria's ginger anymore because they were infected. And that wasn't the case earlier on, because Nigeria's ginger is like the most preferred ginger in the world. A lot of other countries buy it, mix it with theirs, and export it. We're in fact the third largest producers of ginger at the time, and also we were, our ginger was the most preferred. It had very good pungency. When you drive by the farms where they farm ginger, you'll be smelling the ginger scent everywhere. But suddenly we had interventions, foreign interventions from aid agencies like the USAID and the rest of them, distributing inputs to farmers. And I had someone reach out to me that said that her sister got the input. She didn't get the input. Her sister used the input. The farm got, burnt with the blight and stuff. And her farm was intact because she didn't use the pesticide from the government. That's from the US government. This is a classic story to let you know that the susceptibility of the Nigerian ginger could have been possible through the aids that they received.
Yeah. So this seems like an attack, because how can
Actually,
Nigeria go from being the third largest exporter of ginger
to
and having a
importing ginger.
yes to importing ginger? That's really worrisome. Okay, I just wanted to ask you, is there any proof that GMOs are safe or not safe?
So there are no proofs that GMOs are safe. There are no proofs that they are safe, but there are proofs that they are not safe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can search on Professor Sarah Line's research, where he fed GMOs to mice for a period of time and they developed cancerous tumors. His research was, there were a lot of attempts to blacklist his research, to unpublish it, and all this were funded by Monsanto. And you should know that Monsanto actually is it's a war organization. Their parent organization, Bayer, has been fighting with the war, featured quite prominently both in World War I and World War II. So you're dealing with organizations that understand battle strategy, and you find that they they get into things that you put in your body, and you ask yourself, is it safe,
Mm,
or it can be weaponized? Think about
mm.
it.
Interesting. I've said several times on this show that even if bombs are not raining down in your country, anywhere you are, we're in a constant state of war. This is just non-kinetic
Right.
warfare, and it can be a lot more dangerous than when you see bombs falling in your country. Okay, let me just ask you the last question so I can let you go. Now, with all of this that you have said, what can we as individuals do to put things right? Because I don't want to be consuming GMO fruits, and I'm sure a lot of people don't want to. What can we do as individuals?
First things, we strengthen our regulation, we amend where necessary, we take up a policy statement or a policy direction against it, and that's the best way to do so. Everyone needs to come together, rise up, speak to your various representatives, your lawmakers, speak to your friends, family, uncles, dads, mothers, grandparents, whoever is in government. Speak to them to take decisions against it, and of course create more awareness about it. Everybody needs to be involved in the awareness drive to kick out GMOs from the society, because it's a big issue with public health. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I know that you're hurrying up to get somewhere, but I really appreciate that you took this
Thank you.
time to share your knowledge. Thank you so much. I'll round it off
Thank
from
you
here.
for having me.
Thank you. I hope you can do it better next time.
Yeah, we can do this another time. We can do this again. I love
Mm.
to do this. I would love to do this another time. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So hi guys. Dr. Shego actually has somewhere to be in the next like 10 minutes. So that was why I had to um handle the interview quickly, just go through a lot of questions. But the Guardian documentary I made reference to, I'm going to leave a link to it in the description so that you can watch this documentary. This is from the Guardian UK. So I want you to watch this documentary and get this knowledge because everybody eats. And it's going to be very dangerous for we in Africa to begin to consume food that is not within our control. I've said this time several times on this show, and I just made reference to it. We're at constant state of war. Those who make policies globally, they understand that this is warfare. So to protect yourself, your family, and even your country, you need to get knowledge. So I'm going to leave the Guardian the link to that in the description. And if you have any questions about what we've discussed, fine. Please share it with me in the comment section. Thank you guys so much. Next week, most important. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.